In my own perspective, I think atheism is one of the concepts that is widely spread across different religions and across different intelligent minds. I also believe that it is a conversation that has lived in the heart of many and has been spoken from the heart of many for as long as the scripture has been available. Today we are going to be discussing on atheism, just to share my own point of view regarding what I believe atheism is, what I think they stand for, and a few other things. This video is not necessarily to dispute the point of view of an atheist, it's just merely to share my 2 cents or to share my thoughts on what I think atheism represents. Okay, let's get into today's conversation. I think atheism is a worldview that everyone is familiar with, but in case you are not familiar with it, the word atheism literally means absence of God, or we can simply put it as not believing in the existence of God. The worldview atheism is there to bring a certain kind of ideology into the system, and the ideology is that God doesn't exist. And it's not really just about the Christian God, it's also about the Islamic God, the Jewish God, and every other gods, right? But majority of atheists tilt alongside having conversations on the Christian God. One of the reasons why that is because the Christian God, or the representation of the Christian message, which is Jesus, made some certain claims that dispute every other religion as being relevant. There's some common perception I have noticed about atheism. Every atheist, or 99% of atheists, dislike the idea that there is a God somewhere. And I think this is true for most of the atheists that I've met and the ones that I've watched and the ones I've tried to have a conversation with, is that they dislike the idea that there is God. And sometimes this ideology or this narrative comes from different sources. For some, it's due to a signal of pain that they had in their past, or for some others, it is because they have interacted with some set of people and it looks as though they received a light bulb that changed their perspective about things. Like the source of that belief system is from different points of view for different set of people. But a major one has always been that there is a contradiction in the Bible in their own point of view, and because of that, they believe that there is no God. To also add to it, that many atheists have seen that the Christian God is more plausible, but even at that, they still, or majority of them still believe that there is no God. Number two, atheists also argue that God cannot be proven scientifically. To me, I really do believe that that argument is flawed. It's like ridiculing the title God that we call that personality, because if it is God, it needs to come with some level of mystery. And the reason why I say that is this: if all there is about God is all there is that we know, what is the difference between God and us? Right, it puts us in the same level. So there needs to be a difference in knowledge, a difference in power, a difference in expression, a difference in judgment. Right, there must be that certain difference that makes us and it doesn't and I don't think it needs to be scientifically proven. That is majorly the second point, that it can be scientifically proven. Another point that I have seen to be a major quotation from many atheists is that people can uphold morality without the need of a god. Majority of the time when I hear narratives like that, it is mostly coming from a perspective that morality equals being good. And I beg to differ there, majorly because I think our definition of good is flawed. Reason being that we judge good based on the fact that we are able to extend a level of humanity to others. But we have forgotten the fact that that expression of humanity or expression of love that we have within us came from a place, right? It originated from a certain source, right? But beyond just that, I believe that the human construction or the human mind is selfish to the core. And the reason why I say that is this: every human will at some point prioritize themselves or their family over any other person, regardless of whatever consequence that might come with it. There is a reality show that I watch, Mr. Beast, Beast Game, yeah, Beast Game. And whenever I watch that reality show, very beautiful reality show, it shows to me the flaws of men. That regardless of how close some set of people can be, or people can be, when it gets to the point of prioritizing yourself or prioritizing your family, people can deliberately take some certain actions that defile the definition of good. right? And there's always a justifiable reason to do that. The point I'm trying to make is that we overestimate our definition of good, and we forget the fact that people can switch at every point in time when circumstances permit us to do so. Let's look at another point atheists use to support the narrative. Some believe that the presence of evil is a proof that God doesn't exist. And I understand from one point of view they are explaining this. However, I still believe that I have a perspective to evil, and I know that many atheists come and say that evil originated from, if we are going to go by the books and go by the teachings of the Torah, it literally means that evil originated from God not doing something about, or God planting the tree of good and evil in the garden, and because of that there is disruption in the earth. Why can't God have a world where there is no disruption in the earth, right? I think I understand the insight from that argument. However, I would say that again, these are written texts, and there are many contexts that are not in this written text. And again, I've listened to many atheists, they'll be like, okay, you are so Christians are very comfortable with shouting about context, saying that okay, this is taken out of context and things like that. This is not me trying to patronize you, right? What I'm just trying to say is that I believe there is more to the story, and I believe that there is still more for us to know in time, and probably even after time. And I choose to believe that, again, I'll refer back to my previous point, that humans at their core are selfish and will do anything when the circumstances permit them to do that. And I as well believe that evil itself is human induced. When I say human induced, I mean that humans by themselves create evil in the world. In as much as we refer that evil started because God planted the tree of good and evil, let's assume that your narrative is right. And to see from your perspective, right? Let's assume that I want to see from your perspective. I would also say that humans at their core are evil, and humans will express themselves at certain points in time. And I believe you also agree with me that one of the problems that we have in the world is that we have humans that are interested in expressing themselves in the fullest. Even when it comes to endangering the lives of people, you would see the quest of power, you see quest for dominance, and you see how people can make little of the importance of another life, right? So I believe that while we try to cast the stone towards God, we should not forget the fact that humans play a gigantic role in the expression of evil in the world. Okay, that's my point. So why do people choose atheism? Why do people choose atheism? Why do people choose to become atheists? From my own research, number one, I think people choose to become atheists because of their intellectual curiosity. And I think curiosity is a gift. And the reason why I believe it's a gift is because it has helped us in bringing to light many things that we would probably think is not possible. For example, people have explored the depth of the ocean, but that came from a place of curiosity, right? That somebody can sit one day and be like, I think there are some things in this ocean that we can explore. We have seen fishes all around. How about when we go deep down? Probably we're going to see something even more interesting. And I think the curiosity of many people have brought about some level of innovation into the world. I will also add to it, to give a balance to it, that curiosity as well has brought evil into the world, has made people even more dangerous. I think curiosity is good, but it depends on how you use it, right? And majority of atheists have used it to scrutinize the Bible, say the Bible is not true. I think I've also heard many times where people say that how do we validate that these texts are true? And some people as well come up with different points, and majority of the argument has always come from the Old Testament. When we want to argue about death, we want to argue about genocide and a lot of things, to just go to the Old Testament and pick up a scripture there. And I think it's fine to be curious. I really think it's fine to be curious. And I believe when Christians are not curious as well, there is a problem. Humans should be curious. Humans should ask questions. And humans should seek answers, right? But for my perspective, I think a lot of atheists are curious, but are not open to accepting that there is a possibility that an answer can look different from what they have. Yeah, I think that's the problem there. just from my own perspective though. Number two reason why people choose atheism is that many people have personal experience, and a lot of people have experienced pain. Some have experienced death of loved ones, some have experienced war, they've experienced pain of others, and a point it has touched them so much or have affected them so much that they believe that if all of these expressions can be seen on it, I do not believe that there is a God that exists. And while that is legitimate to some extent, I as well would refer back to the words of John Lennox in his explanation of evil and good, or a good God and an expression of evil on the earth. He will say the world is filled with beauty and bombs. And what that means is that when we look at the world, we see a lot of beautiful things. When we also look at the world, we see a lot of terrible things. Right now, we can see that war is going on in different countries, and people are destroying lives because of probably political propagandas and things like that. And we have as well seen things like natural disasters happen in certain places, and people get to sit down and question that, okay, but people who are good have died in between all of these things that are going on. Why do people have to experience this pain? And this might sound a little bit harsh, or might make a lot of people feel as though, okay, this guy is just speaking trash, or might make people feel as though this guy is inhuman. But I would say it. I think, in my own perspective, that if we decide to remove the idea that God exists, pain becomes unbearable for many of us. Or not say many of us, pain becomes unbearable for a lot of people, or for most people. I think I would dare to say for most people. And the beauty of what Christianity offers to us is that in spite of pain, we can be comforted. I was listening to a conversation at the time, and in that conversation, it was said that when you meet somebody who is in desperate need of comfort, what can an atheist provide at that point in time? And I thought about it for a long time, and I see that there is really nothing an atheist can provide to somebody that is experiencing evil. And beyond just that, I won't think as much that atheism doesn't have anything much to offer. And a lot of times, people have seldom say that because you have chosen to be an atheist, you are free from the law, or you have freedom to do whatever it is that you want to do, and as well you have freedom to stop believing in what they call fallacies or fairy tales of heaven and hell and things like that. But I have interacted with a lot of atheists, and I think it hurts many of them, or it annoys many of them, if you choose not to see from their own lens. They believe you are stupid for not seeing from their own lens, or they believe that you are being intellectually inconsistent. I think, let me use that safe word, when you choose not to see from their own point of view. And I've been related to a few of them, probably from afar, and I've seen how bitter people can be. And it's not all of them, trust me. When I say it's not all of them, I've as well seen some that give an expression of life in some form, but most of them, as I have seen, they have some level of anger and bitterness towards people who do not want to see from their point of view. Another reason why people choose to be atheists is that they have a desire for autonomy. They want to be on their own. They don't want to believe that morality should come from a God, that you can be good without a God. And again, just like I mentioned earlier, they are right that by default humans should be good. By default we should have an expression of good in us. By default we should love our neighbors just the way we love ourselves. But again, just like I mentioned earlier, that to what extent can man be good? Don't you think that we are overestimating how good a man can be, or a person can be? Don't you think that when circumstances play a role in our lives, we can take a detour and try to do certain things that we are not supposed to do? I think those questions are expedient for us to ask. Now, here is my conclusion. I'll read it out for you. Atheism is a worldview that is legitimate in the sense that people have the right to question, doubt, and make choices about belief. However, it also has limitations and tensions that I have observed, especially around morality, meaning, and submission. Here's my conclusion. Atheism as a worldview is not wrong entirely, and I believe it is good because there is a place of questioning there's a place of curiosity, there's a place to desire answer. I have listened to different scientists. Mathematicians have come out to prove that there is God. Some other mathematicians have come out to prove that there is no God. Cosmologists have come out to prove that there is God. Some other cosmologists have come out to prove that there is no God. Intellectual philosophers have come out to prove that there is no God. Same way we can see intellectual philosophers that say there is God. Scientists from both sides have existed and they are still existing. Here's my conclusion. Everybody has a choice to make. Either you choose to be an atheist or you choose to follow the God of the Bible. Everybody still is walking on blind faith. Just that some of us have more proof of our blind faith. Sorry to add that, but here's the point I'm trying to make. That at every point in time, you need to know that everybody will make a choice, and there's always a lot of information out there to validate your point. When somebody is looking for reasons to hate people, they will always find reasons to hate people. When someone is looking for reasons to love a person, they will as well find enough reason to love a person. It just depends on what you're looking for. Thank you for joining today's conversation. I know probably the conclusion might not sound like what you want to hear, but again, I'm just giving my 2 cents to the conversation. Thank you for joining in, and do well to leave a like, do well to leave a comment. I would love to read your comment, and as well, do well to share with a friend. Can't wait to see you in the next one.